Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today, and this one is a Revised Standard Version produced by the Board of Publication of the Lutheran Church. Now, I don't have very many denominational specific Bibles. I know that some Bibles, like some translations, are kind of geared towards certain denominations, but this is one of the few that I have that's one of the few Bibles I have that's geared towards a specific denomination. And the reason for that, I guess, will become kind of more apparent as we go on with the review. So let's get a start. You can see on the cover, it does say Holy Bible with helps, right? And it's imprinted into the cover there. It's very nice. Nicely done. We do have a genuine leather cover here. You can see the nice grain. It does have a little perimeter liner on the edge there. On the spine, we have Holy Bible, Revised Standard Version, and then that is the Board of Publication of the Lutheran Church, their logo. A little boat. Toot toot. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I almost counted 6, 5. Raised spine hubs. They're not super raised. They're just kind of rib indications there. The perimeter line continues. We have the nice grain on the back, that nice genuine leather grain that we've come to know and love. It does say genuine leather right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of stamped in a little flag down there, which should look kind of familiar to you guys. As far as the rest goes, we have some very yellowed head and tail bands. And a gold gilt that has kind of picked up like a rose gold color. So I'm not sure if it was rose gold to begin with, or if it's just kind of from the age, it's kind of turned into that. But either way, it's kind of a rose gold color now. The ribbon is just a single-sided satin black ribbon, and it was extremely frayed. So I did my little jobby there and glued the end of it. But yeah, average ribbon for the time. Let's go ahead and take a look on the inside. You have a black paper paste down. It does have that Saffiano look again. On the corner work, let's see, there's not much to show. Kind of simple on the inside. It doesn't look like it's it is. It's reinforced here. You can see the tape coming across the span there. The back more the same. Nothing crazy. Get into the text. So we just have kind of the end sheet there, and then a couple thicker sheets of paper. You do have a nice piece of parchment paper there for the presentation page, and it's very nice the way it's done. I like the little blue and gold. It's a nice contrast. Then you have a little note on the color photography, which should also look familiar to you guys if you've been watching the channel for a while. And we have a nice color photography there of the Via Dolorosa. Then we have our title page. I'll let you guys see that. And if you look at the bottom there, it does say the Board of Publication of the Lutheran Church in America from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Turn the page and get the copyright. See some information there about it. And if you look, this is this is a Plantin clear type edition, right? And it does say manufactured in the United States. So if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that the Plantin is a Collins model. Now, I'm not really too sure why Collins would have done this. I'm assuming there was some money exchange, and I'm sure they had their reasons for it, right? But for whatever reason, Collins produced this RSV, and it's just their standard RSV Plantin edition. But they kind of swapped out the logo stamp here on the bottom, and they changed that copyright page or the title page on the front to include the Board of Publication of the Lutheran Church in America. So I'm assuming under contract, the Lutheran Church, asked Collins, hey, can you produce us an RSV with just your Plantin text that we can, I guess distribute among the churches, or the churches can order, what have you. So I guess that was the case. And you do still see this, I should say kind of rarely. You don't see it super often nowadays in publishing. I guess maybe like an equivalent might be maybe like Allen, because I guess Allen will take but even Allen kind of changes. It's not like Allen's taking a direct copy of a Bible. I mean, they take the print, but then they make it their own because they print on their own paper. They apply their own sort of fanciness to it. They bind it in a nice binding. So it's not quite the same. This would just be almost like a branded version of a Bible. So maybe it's out there. I'm sure they exist somewhere. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. If you know any, leave them down below. Just as a little fun factoid, right? Then we have our preface. That's a few pages. Then we have our table of contents. We have our subject index. Kind of neat. See that? And it kind of breaks it down by book, so you have kind of the highlights of each book there. We have our Old Testament title page, and then just the remainder of that subject index. And we have the first book of Moses, commonly called Genesis. There you go. I'll let you guys take a look at the text. And we'll turn the page. Let's see if we can't. Actually, I'm going to kind of flip through a little bit of it. Here we go. All right, so the standard layout is just going to be a double column paragraph setting that we've seen, again, in the Collins Plantin edition. You do have the book names and the chapter numbers in the top corners, and then in the middle you have the page numbers and a little running header across the top. I don't think that there are any running headers. There are not within the text. So the only running headers you get are the running headers up here in the gutter. You also have some mild, very, minor kind of translator's footnotes down here at the bottom. And it does appear that they do have some little cross references, and I'll show you those. Not that it's very much kind of light on them, to be honest, but for whatever reason, that's all they wanted. You do have a double line drop cap signifying the chapter numbers, and your kind of verse numbers are kind of mixed in. I'll try and show you those. Like there, you can see verse 17. So let's flip to the poetic section. And we can see there is some poetics kind of formatting, but they didn't do any. There wasn't really an attempt to kind of like even up the lines or break up these, get rid of these single word lines, which drives me crazy because this is just real. I don't know. I'm a big fan of like just formatting, and I understand sometimes they want the text to be justified, right? Justified is where the text is aligned like this on both sides of the text. But look right here. Down here, they did a great job. It's very formatted. It's nicely broken. You don't have any kind of crazy zigzagging. But then right on the other side of the page, you have this kind of nonsense. So I don't understand why they would take the time to format this sort of thing, but not this. It's just how it was done, I guess, in this edition. It is what it is, right? We do have some. I want to kind of point out a couple things. We do have some kind of photos throughout. They are economizing here in the text, so you can see the book of Zechariah starts right at the end of Haggai. It's not getting its own individual page, which is kind of sad. I prefer when they start on a new page. We do have these color prints, they call them, or color images, throughout the text also. Right, there's the market in Nazareth. Right, those sort of things. We'll go back to the New Testament right quick, the New Testament title page. Hopefully we can snag it. So we have your New Testament title page there. It does look to have a few more kind of footnotes and cross-references down there. Not many, but still a few more than the Old Testament, which I guess is to be expected. There's a good bit. I guess it's just kind of hit or miss, probably, depending on what they want to focus on. You can see, though, that it is a black letter text. Nothing crazy. Let me zoom in and you guys can see the paper. Now, this paper wasn't super stellar. There was certainly better out there at the time, and I don't know if this would have been like an economy edition or anything like that, but it does kind of seem to be the case, only because of just kind of the overall general kind of build quality and how it feels. Even the paper feels almost like, I hate to say it, there's one type of paper that I really dislike, and it's this type of paper. Maybe aside from like trade paperbacks, that real cheap, like kind of dark gray paper that's just terrible. But this almost has like a chalky feel to the paper, and I don't like that. It's not really rough. It just feels like chalky. I don't know. It's kind of a weird feeling paper. I don't enjoy it at all. It just feels weird to my fingers. I did want to show you something else. Let me see if you guys can see it. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but you see how there's a little kind of page poking out here? Let me show you what that's all about. I'll flip to it, and it's very easy to get to, obviously, because it's sticking out. So if you guys can see, I'm hoping you can see it on the camera there. But if you notice, there's like a little line running here, and a little line running here where the text is kind of like split. Right? So what happened originally is, before the page was printed, this sheet, for whatever reason, kind of got crinkled. Now, remember, Bible paper is very thin, so this is bound to happen. I mean, this is not unusual by any stretch of the imagination. So what happened is, before the text was applied, this section of paper, for whatever reason, kind of got creased. So then the text was printed, and of course, I go through my Bibles, and when I went through my Bibles, I noticed that there was a crease there. So I kind of pulled the page out, right, and I used a Teflon bone folder, I think is what they're called, or a Teflon paper folder. And I tried to relax the crease out as best I could, so it wouldn't re-crinkle back to where it was. But that's what happens basically, because it was creased before the print was applied. When you break it apart like that, you end up getting a split in the text, number one, And then you also end up with a little bit of a kind of page overlap there, where that page is always going to be a little bit proud as opposed to the rest of the text block. Now, normally, I wouldn't. Normally, what I would do is it would, if it pulled out enough, or say in the rare event, sometimes you'll get where after the page is printed and after the page is printed before it's trimmed, sometimes like the corner will fold up. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen one of those or gotten a Bible like that. But when you unfold that corner, all the text is still there, but then you have this big like untrimmed kind of sheet of paper hanging off the edge there. And obviously you can send that back for a warranty. Myself, I guess it depends on what kind of Bible it is. Like if it's an Allen, I don't really want to have to like mail it all the way back to, overseas. But if it's something that like the return process is relatively easy and they're okay with it and all that kind of stuff, I'll send it back for that. Maybe, I don't know. Sometimes it just depends how easy it is. Usually I end up trimming the pages myself. So I'll just get a ruler and I'll put a piece of like really thick, almost like cardboard or cardstock, just a very thick piece of paper that I know I'm going to cut through. And I just use a ruler and trim it down with an X-Acto knife, and then I just get a pair of scissors and kind of round it. In this case, it's so minimal. The overlap is so minimal. I'm probably not going to bother. Not to mention, again, this isn't like a super high quality edition of the RSV, so it's probably not going to drive me nuts. Eventually, what will happen though is the more you use this, the more this page edge will kind of fray, and it'll kind of get some like micro tears and little tears in it. But it's not hanging out enough to where it's bothersome or anything crazy like that. But you certainly could trim it down yourself if you feel brave enough or so inclined. I don't know if they would warranty it after the fact if you were to cut it crooked or something like that. Like, hey, I tried to cut it and I messed up. Can you guys give me a new Bible? Probably not. But certainly in these vintage Bibles, this sort of thing happened a lot. So I just had to learn how to remedy it. And that's just one of those things. But you can always tell, because if there's, some text missing essentially, then it was, folded, before it was printed. But if you saw the text, if the text is still preserved, then it was folded after it was printed. Now I have had one edition I had, and it was like folded over and it was printed when it was folded. And then when I unfolded it, there was no text. And that one, I think got sent back, if I remember correctly, because for me, it's a bigger issue if there's biblical text missing. This sort of thing doesn't drive me crazy. The page overhanging doesn't drive me crazy. I can fix that. If there's like part of the liner that's coming up, that doesn't bother me. I can glue it down. But if the biblical text is missing, it's like, what am I going to do? I can't do anything with that. So that sort of thing I would warranty. But yeah, I think that was about it. Let's go back to the end of the Bible here. We saw the New Testament that was black letter. You can see the nice kind of color prints there throughout, right? And we'll go, that's my favorite right there. Okay, so we'll get to the end of Revelation. And there's still a good chunky little bit of helps there. Now, I don't know if any of the helps have been edited to kind of, I guess, I don't even know how to say it, to accommodate to Lutheran doctrine or anything like that. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that. So I would imagine probably not. Collins probably just literally rebranded it and moved on with their day. But we do have some illustrations here, some plants. These are my favorite illustrations, the animals. I love these. We have some helps to the study of the Revised Standard Version Bible. You have an introduction to the Bible, Old Testament books, and these are kind of like summaries of the books of the Bible. Always neat to have that. I'll kind of chunk through it pretty quick. There's timelines here, and again, it's the same exact Bible it appears as the last Plantin that we looked at. So, any of you viewers that are still here now and who've seen that last video, I applaud you. Some more book summaries. You have the miracles of Christ, parables of Christ, famous Bible passages, weights, money, and measures, time chart of Bible history. Looks like we just caught the last part of it there. Yeah, time chart of Bible history. And you have this page. Oh, this is always my favorite page. I remember as a kid, these two pages I used to look at the most. And Holman used to have these because I have an old Holman. Oh, what's it called? I think it's not the Rainbow Study Bible. I think it's just called the Holman Rainbow Bible. And it was like a children's edition. And it had kind of a colorful cover of like Christ sitting, like welcoming the kids to come talk to him, like full color deal. And it had all these same pictures. And I just remember always being fascinated and looking at this single sheet to see all the doodles and the drawings and stuff. Then you have your concise concordance. So it's not going to be a full-size concordance, but it's still something's better than nothing. And there's some explanatory notes in the concordance. I'll kind of flip through it real quick here. So the concordance, let me show you guys a little section of the concordance there in case you're interested. concordance text is pretty small. And we have these maps, the gray and blue maps. These are not my favoriteest. Not the worst, but certainly not my favorite. Just a few of those. And then you've got one blank sheet, a secondary blank sheet, and then just the end sheet there. It's stamped with looks like D or P 4417. A little code there, and then just the end sheet and all that. So, yeah, branded Collins Plantin. And I think even in my initial review of the Collins Plantin, I wasn't super overwhelmed by it. I mean, it's really like an entry level, kind of a mid entry level Bible. I mean, it's a Bible. It works, right? And I guess if you're a fan of the RSV, it wouldn't be an expensive edition to pick up. I think these are like readily available on eBay. I see these all the time. Maybe not this Lutheran edition, but I see the Collins Plantin edition very readily available on eBay. And I've seen them go for like $5. I mean, somewhere in there. I didn't pay very much for this one, so yeah. Let me get you some measurements. We are at 7 and what is that? Like 5/8 of an inch tall by 5 3/8 of an inch wide by 1 1/4 inches thick. So not too shabby. Pretty nice size. Put the Sharpie in there for comparison. Squeeze it in at the last minute, right? Let's take a look at the text. It'll obviously be the same thing as the last Plantin. We'll look at the H here in Harkin. And it's about a 9.5 point font versus Times New Roman. And we'll look at the N in Burden. It's a little smaller. It appears to be about an 8.5 point font versus Times New Roman for the lowercase. I would say an 8.5 point font overall, which is, I would imagine that's probably pretty standard for, hand-sized Bible. 8.5 point font, RSV, kind of meh paper. You guys can see it there. It's got a fair bit of show through. Yeah. I don't have much to say about it. It's a reskin of a Plantin, and the Plantin to begin with was kind of meh. So, Bible buddies, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them down below. If you could like, comment, subscribe, all that cool YouTube stuff, it would be much appreciated. Until next time, Bible buddies, bye.